I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I needed change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.
What it do, family? We are back. It's Thursday again, and you know what time it is. It's time to get into it. It's time to meet another individual that is going to show you how not only are they living in their purpose, how they're giving back to others, how they're doing what they're intended to be doing. Now, this individual, I tell you, I was lost for words when I had a quick conversation, because you know how I do. I don't want to go too deep, because I want you to get all authentic questions, authentic answers. Nothing's pre-made. It's just like off the hip. And I was like, no, we got to stop. We got to stop, because you're giving me too much, and the people have to see. Matter of fact, I'm just going to hold on. I want you to hear this clip right quick. I'm going to give you a second. Listen to this right quick. But don't even worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get you to it in a second. Hold on. Because, man, I tell you, this gentleman, I couldn't do it no better. If I wouldn't have seen it myself, I would feel like, man, this is not the truth. Matter of fact, I'm just going to have to let you see it for yourself, let you hear it for yourself. I'm not going to hold you up, because I know you are building with anticipation. Yeah. Turn your volume up. There it goes.
light shines so bright, but finding perfect words for the perfect girl's the hardest. So the least that I can do is simply try. And I know I'm a youngin', but it's something I feel, and it's real. It's more than looks, far from lust, and I just want you to trust in me, whoa, in me, yeah. Cause the only way to do this is putting God above. We'll start right from the bottom, and then we'll work our way. So just try, just try. Cause you're a ray of sunshine.
Man, I don't know if y'all are
Will you be
listening
my
to me,
ray of sunshine?
man,
Cause you light up the world.
it's just, I can just sit here and vibe to this
Will you
all day.
light up my world? Just try.
Got just the right amount.
When the tears fall from your eyes, I wanna be the one to wipe them. When you're confused and don't know what, I love to be
It
a
really
voice
just
of
sets
reason,
down and makes you feel
reasons to choose you. You're always putting God first. I wanna show you love, give you love, just like you love the church. I know it's bold, this melody's getting bold, but I know of one thing, I'm sure of one thing, yeah, that'll never change. Cause there's just one way, and the only way to do this is getting God back in time. We'll start right from the bottom, and then we'll work our way right up. Oh, just try, just try. You're a ray of sunshine. Will you be my ray of sunshine? Cause you light up the world. Will you light up my world? Just try.
Well, first off, I'm not one to really do stuff like this, but I met this girl like 5 months ago, and she inspired this song. Unfortunately, she lives in a place that makes her seem as if she's light years away, you know, even if it's only a couple of time zones. But one thing I really love is how God has used her to help me realize that my ideal relationship no longer resembles a red heart like the social norm, but it looks like a purple triangle. And I say this because her and I are royalty. You know, that's just what it is. We're children of the one true King. And I believe that despite distance, despite distractions, despite doubt, her and I can make this work. And if we put God, who is love, at the top of that triangle and seek Him together, the possibilities are endless. You know?
Man. So I promise you, like, before everybody in the world even got to hear the music, and I'm gonna introduce. I gotta get this out of my head before I even let the world even heard that. And I first heard it, all that was going through my head is like Eminem. And people, I know probably everybody that's tuning in, and I thank everybody that's tuning in. They're probably like, why are you saying Eminem? Because all I hear is ministry and music. And many people, and believe it or not, many people like don't understand how you could take a gift and bring two different platforms that most people wouldn't even think and bring them together. But I'm not even finna dive into that because I know everybody wants to meet the person behind it, and I gotta let you do it. I'm not even gonna do you any disservice. Everybody, this is Dr. B, Dr. Brandon McCrae. Sir, welcome to the show.
Listen, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to be able to share with you all this evening. You've given me such a masterful introduction. I was trying to figure out who you were talking about. I was looking around like, man, I can't wait to meet whoever this person is. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm very thankful for the invitation, and it's joy. It really is.
Now you got to tell us, because with such powerful words, powerful music, everybody's probably wondering, who is Dr. B? Tell us who Dr. B is. Like, where's Dr. B from? Who is Dr. B?
So, Dr. B is, it's a name. It's a part of me. And it's kind of what I've gone by mostly here in the last 2 years or so. My name is Brandon McCrae. I am originally from Valdosta, Georgia, born in Waycross, but I've been reared in Valdosta. Valdosta is all I know. I am a PK. I literally almost, grew up. I grew up on the bench. I've come from a family of preachers, a family of believers. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm a dad. I'm an uncle. I am a musician. I'm a minister. I am a producer. I'm a preacher. I'm a professor. I'm a lot of things. But here it is. Most importantly, I am a child of God. That's the most important part.
I like that, because me myself, I am also a child of God, and I gotta know how this works. I gotta know how this works, because everybody knows that watches this show that we're all about different business personalities, different people from all walks of life. That's just all about showing who they are, being transparent, telling their story, how they got from one place to the next. Because somebody out there that's listening and watching is like, man, that sounds like me, or I want to pursue that. So how do you go? Because for one, kudos to your family, because it sounds like you have a great support system behind you. Because that's one thing I know about people. People do not bring up others that don't support them. And
Yes.
for you to bring up that many people, your support system is strong.
It's real deep. It is very deep.
But I know it has to be even stronger, because you said ministry, but you said ministry, music, and teaching. So I got to know, how do you find time for all of these things?
Very spread out, very, very thin, and very difficultly. Boy, let me tell you. So we're business owners too. So it's a whole nother aspect. There's a lot going on in what we have colloquialized called, if you are on any social media and you follow us on any social media, my wife has dubbed our family hashtag Team McCrae. So you'll see, Team McCrae on literally on every social media platform, IG. I think my wife got us on what's the other one? The one that the all the kids love.
Oh, the TikTok.
TikTok. Yes, she got it on TikTok. Clearly, I don't do TikTok. I'm an Instagram. Instagram is my thing. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. So Team McCrae is my wife and I. We literally, I don't even understand how our lives have interbalanced, because we're always literally from one thing to the next, So it's not just me. It's me and it's mother. I call her mother. She picks it. I pick at her. But it's me and my wife. We're literally everywhere, and the balance is. It starts for me. For me, it starts with self-balance, because if I'm not balanced, if this is not balanced, nothing else can be balanced. If I'm not balanced, I talked about it last night. If I'm not balanced here, I can't be balanced anywhere else, right? I can look balanced, I can seem balanced, but at the end of the day, something's going to go off kilter. Something's going to fall off the by wayside, right? Something's going to go lacking. So I've got to be balanced here. And when I'm balanced here, I then become balanced here, and everything else kind of works itself out. I am a fly by the seat of your pants kind of person. I hate to write stuff down, and I like to go, and it works well for me, in that I can do a lot of things without a lot of preparation necessarily.
Okay.
There are some things that, of course, need to be prepared. There are several things that have to be prepared. But I'm a jazz musician. Like, that's my undergraduate degree. Like, that's where I'm coming from. So everything is about improvisation, right? It's about what happens on the fly and about making the most of it. So that's kind of what has helped me be able to juggle so many things and helped me be able to balance so many things. Having that internal piece here and here, and then also being able to literally improvise, just go after it, put it all out there in the line.
You drop some nuggets there, and I can't let everybody. I want to make sure everybody got what you said, because you hear people, especially in today's society, talk about work-life balance, like professional and personal life balance. And you just said it, and it was clear as it can be. And I want everybody to make sure they heard you. It all starts here, the mental.
Yes.
Like, you can look like that, and we hear it all the times. We see it, especially through social media. So many people talk about it. People look like they got it all together. They look like they're happy. Things are just going great, and you think that. But then something on the inside you catch on later on down the line, like, oh, that person wasn't doing good, or things are going bad. And it all came back down to they didn't have that balance up here. And you're telling us all, make sure we have the balance, especially if you're a fly by the seats of like you. Hey, I might go and take off, but it's a reason behind it. But I also understand, because I want everybody to catch what you said. You fly by the seat of your pants. And then you're like, but your wife, mom, as we call her, does this over here. I understand. I want people to understand it's that mental, but it works one way only. It's not just your mentality. It's the mentality of the people that are around you. Dr. B said he'll take off, but his wife has that mentality like, oh, he took off over there, but I got this balance. It's like a scale. It tilts.
Yes.
If one person does one thing, the other person has to match that energy so it can balance out. That's why he said he's Instagram. She does TikTok, because she understands in order to reach the masses, you have to reach people where they're at. You don't want to leave out the young generation because they're on TikTok and hit the mid generation or the older generation, whatever you call us, because we're on Instagram. Now you lose the balance. And a lot of that is going on in the world today because the older generation didn't make sure there was a balance, and the younger generation is like this. And it has to work hand in hand. I'm glad you said that, but you also snuck in something else. You said, after the beautiful music I just heard to start the show, you said that jazz was your thing. That was your undergraduate. I got to go back from the beginning because I don't want to miss nobody, because somebody might be at the beginning, somebody might be in the middle, somebody might be at the end. How do we even get to the point growing up, especially growing up in Georgia? I know about Georgia, the South. I know music.
Yes.
How do we get from growing up to say my undergraduate is jazz?
So if you want to look at BMAC or Brandon or B, everybody has a different whatever they want to call me, and it's fine. Those that have known me my entire life, they've known me from the beginning as a church drummer. Like, I came up at 4 years old, 5 years old, I was the drummer for our church. I was the drummer for my church.
At 5.
Union Missionary Baptist, at 5. Union Missionary Baptist Church in Valdosta, Georgia. I was the drummer. They had the floor tom didn't have legs, and they had to sit on a brick. I had to sit on people's laps to play. It was a whole thing. But that's how I grew up. So my musical backlog is church. I'm a church baby. That's all I've ever known. All I grew up under, and it was probably the absolute best foundation that I could have had, because church music, Black gospel. Let me say it like this: Black gospel music. We listen to it now, but even then, it had a little bit of everything in it, and especially now, it has undertones of every musical genre in Black gospel. So I grew up literally flying by the seat of my pants in church, literally. So I had a love at a very, very young age. I had a love. It's gonna make sense. I'm gonna try to not to go the preacher route. I'm gonna try to get it as fast as I can.
Take your time. Take your time.
I've always had a love for, this is going to sound really weird, but just follow me. I've always had a love for mortuary science, funeral homes, restorative arts, and that whole gambit. So for the first, 14, 15 years of my life, 13, 14 years of my life, I wanted to be not only a musician because I loved it, but I wanted to be a funeral home director. So much so that the very first Black police officer in the city of Valdosta, his name was Ralph King Harrington III. He had a funeral home. He was the first to open up, major Black funeral home, and he was the very first Black police officer in our city. He took an affinity to me, and I was going in the embalming room at 8, 7. I know people don't understand it, but it's 8, 7, 9. I was in the embalming room working with him. He allowed me to work funerals. My mom and dad will tell you. I had a certain amount for a certain age group. It was the whole thing. So that's what I wanted to do. I loved it. So of course, naturally, I love science, right? I love science in school. So I got on the kick of mortuary science, and then I was able to come up on Michael Biden, who was a forensic pathologist. So I've always done really, really well in science. So at that point, I transitioned from mortuary science to wanting to be a forensic pathologist. I was elected to go to this really big thing in Georgia, where I was able to go to medical college, and I studied for a summer while I was in high school. The next summer, here's the point of the story. The next summer, I was elected to what's called the Governor's Honors Program, which was a program for those that were especially skilled and gifted in certain things. I went in music. Okay. So while there, I met Leon Anderson. I met Professor Leon Anderson, who was the director of jazz studies at Florida State University. I sat on the edge of my seat and watched Mr. Leon play the drums that summer, and it completely derailed everything I wanted to do. I was playing drums. You know what I mean? I was great at playing drums, playing keyboard at this time. By that age, been playing keyboard, organ in church. But watching Leon Anderson that summer changed everything for me. I mean, it was like somebody flipped a switch. From the Governor's Honors Program, I met Mr. Leon. He took me under his wing. I got a scholarship to Florida State, and my undergraduate on a full ride scholarship to Florida State was in jazz studies and commercial music. So after having been to the medical college forum and loving science, and of course, graduating, really, I did really, really well in school. One summer shifted all of that. It literally shifted years of what I wanted to do in one summer. Flipped it all, turned it on his head. And of course, my mom was upset. She was like, "Now, I thought you were gonna be a doctor. I wanted you to be my doctor, and I was going to be a doctor. I mean, I'm a doctor now, not a medical doctor, but I made it. I got to it eventually."
It's amazing you said that, because I'm glad you told the whole story, because it's a key point in there too, really, that I want everybody to understand. You said you were playing since 5. It's so many of us in the world that are doing things at such a young age, and one of two things happen. Either the people in our surrounding circle change our mind from that, or we allow society to change us from that. Because remember, you said, don't think I'm weird, because especially growing up back then, if it was weird, you're like, oh, I got to stay away. I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't want to be talked about. I didn't want to be the black sheep of the family. So we run from it. Because as you talk about it, because I was like you, I'm in Houston. I was in church. I was one of them families that we was in church 7 days a week. Sunday was early morning service, followed by Sunday school, then regular service, and then don't let it be an afternoon service with like pastor's appreciation, friends and fellowship, whatever it may be. Monday, we was there for the usher board meeting. Tuesday was drill team. Wednesday, midweek service. Thursday was kids choir. Friday was adults choir, but I was with my mama. I'm sitting there watching her sing. And then Saturday, that's when you went out and fellowship, like the whole witness, knocking on doors, trying to bring people to church. And then you went to mid-Saturday prayer, 7 days a week. So I know what you was talking about. So I was running around the church, and I thought I was doing all the acting and all that stuff. But back then, acting wasn't a smart thing. So my mama had me in theater arts, but I had to go play basketball. That's what I saw around me.
Yep.
And come back to it. Yep. Here we are now. I talk, I stand on stages and speak. And it's like,
for a living.
What would happen if I would just stuck on the path? What would have happened in that 10-year time frame? You would have just kept playing. Now, don't get me wrong. We're glad that you're where you're at now because that music is amazing. But now we know how we got to, you know what? This is good. This is good. Because you said it. You was like, mom wanted me to be a doctor. Now you are a doctor. You went, got your music, and it's still wrapped around to doctor. What are you a doctor in?
So I have my doctorate in ministry. I've got a doctor of ministry degree. It is a practical, pragmatic, hands-on pastoral field. My culminating project, my dissertation, it was an expose, a series of seminars on the history or the influence of Africa on the church. The influence of Africa on church history, church dogma, on the church, period. What Africa did to the church, how Africa has influenced, how Africans have infiltrated, how Africa has undergirded the church. It's that's the whole piece. And I ended up, I finished in 2022? I finished in 2020. By the grace of God, thank you, Lord. Finished in 2020. That 5-year journey was a booger, but we were able to see it through. Praise the Lord. He did it. If it wasn't for him, it would not have been done.
Now, I got a question. Because you said something. I won't even say an argument. It's a discussion that I've had many a times. Because I've been to Africa 3 times. And I used to have this conversation because they say, oh, you're a Christian or you're Baptist. Like, the Bible's this, it's made by man. And I'm sitting there looking like, there's like when we were brought over as slaves, the Europeans, the white man, however you want to put it, they made us learn their theory. And I'm like, have y'all even Googled anything outside of the United States? Have you? And I'm trying to have this conversation. I'm like, what, you think that it just appeared one day? But you just said where your studies came from. Can you shed a quick light on the difference of like how, because I have my opinions from what I saw when I was in church, going to church service in Africa. Can you share from your studies and your experience to debunk that myth that we were given Christianity in the Bible because we were slaves in back 400 some years ago?
So what happens, and if you hear my 1-year-old hollering, please forgive him. He's not wanting to go to Lord bed right now. Listen, this is long and short of it. Many believers, many of us don't have, or we weren't given the tools to be able to defend against the question or the argument that Christianity is the white man's religion. Because in America, in Western Christianity, especially and specifically in American Christianity, it is the white man's religion. And it has been the white man's religion, because what's being preached in many of our Western evangelical pulpits is not a truth or a depth in what the Bible actually says, what it is, the context around the text, right? If you take something out of context, you get a con. You take the text out of context, you get a con. That's what you end up with, a con, a lie. What we understand, realize, and recognize when we study the scripture, when we dig deep and dive, that there is the overwhelming majority of the scripture. This is what Dr. Walter McCrae says, that the majority of the Bible was written by blacks, about blacks, in black spaces, with black faces. The scripture in and of itself. When you look at some of the major biblical figures, some of the major biblical people groups, all of them can be identified as culturally black. Now, here it is. I just got to give me about 47 seconds to break it in and get as good as I can, get in and get out. When I say black, I'm meaning, now when we have that idea of Jim Crow, the Jim Crow idea was if you have one drop of black blood in you, then you're black, right? But they won't hold that standard up when we're doing biblical interpretation, when we're doing biblical understanding, when we're doing biblical exegesis. So if we take that same rule, one drop of black, if you got one drop of black blood in you, you're black. If we're using that measuring, that rubric, then I can show you so many black people in scripture that it is absolutely amazing. Ham is the second son of Noah. Ham, his name literally means, and we didn't even talk about this, but his name literally means hot, black, tanned. It literally means in Hebrew, hot, black, tan. When you're speaking geographically, it means from those southern regions and those southern areas. Africa is known as the land of Ham. Africa is known as the land of Ham. Here's the difference. Biblical Africa and continental Africa are not one and the same. Continental Africa is what our minds are wrapped around. But biblical Africa is where every one of Ham's progeny, his seed, where every one of his seed went. That's biblical Africa. So when you hear Paul talk about spaces like Crete, Crete is biblical Africa because it was full of people of Hamitic descent. When you look at the Middle East, there was no Middle East at the time because there was no Suez Canal. It was all connected. How do you think Jesus went to Egypt from Jerusalem? Yeah, it was all connected. And what we look at as Middle East, many portions of the Middle East, that is biblical Africa because the inhabitants of those spaces were of Hamitic descent. That means they had black blood. That means they had that one drop in them. When you look at the place like the Promised Land that the Canaanites had first, that the Israelites inherited, the Canaanites made land fertile. They are of the tribe of Canaan, who was the baby boy of Ham, a direct descendant. All the Canaanites, that's Hamitic land. That's black spaces, black places. Before the Israelites got to that place, it was occupied by biblically black people. So we're all, grandma would say it like this, all up and through the scriptures. And even on into the early church, into the formulation of major Christian doctrines, into the formulation of a lot of things. And I'll give you this last piece and I'll leave it alone. The notion that has been taught is that we got the Bible when we got here. Yep. But would you know, Dr. David Daniels, Bishop David Daniels, who's also a Dr. David Daniels, PhD, has written a masterful work that has done some excavating of some documentation that was given. There were several slaves, get this, Billy, there were several slaves that came in the Massachusetts area, right in that north middle, that little that place, that little space right there, that came through that passage, that got off the boat asking to have their children Christian, asking to have their children blessed and godparents because they got on the boat as Christians. Yep. We're not going to talk about the Congolese nations and many of those African nations that willingly accepted Christianity long before any white man ever gave it to them. And I don't want to jaywalk all the way back, super duper back, to talk about the Ethiopian church or the Coptic church, who is the oldest church in the world, not the Roman Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodox, but the Coptic church has some of the oldest churches. If you go to Ethiopia right now or Eritrea, you will see some of the oldest churches in the world. Yes. Some of the oldest collection of scriptures in the world. So no, it wasn't forced upon us. As a matter of fact, we went to the European nations to teach them. Because the gospel was in Africa long before it was ever in Europe. So there's no way in the world you can tell me that this is a black man's religion, a white man's religion, or the white man's working, because there are too many black people in the book. There are too many black people around the book. There are too many black people that the book speaks about that they're speaking to and they're speaking from. There's no way in the world you can convince me. Absolutely none.
That's because of what you just said earlier. The context. They saw the con and not the text, and they fell for that. Like you said, with the geographical reasons. Like, I don't understand how. When people tell me this, I'm like, was I the only one paying attention in geography class growing up? Like, they all used to be together. Like, over time, stuff is happening. Like, I even what you just said, because my mama even popping up talking about teaching. Come on here, like, because you're teaching right now, and I don't want anybody to take what you're saying out of context. So if you don't believe what Dr. B is saying, if you don't believe what he's saying, I want you to watch this quick clip right quick, and you tell me when we come back if you believe what Dr. B is saying. Let's check this clip out right quick.
The interesting thing about recalibration is you cannot recalibrate until you have renewed your mind. You can't truly have your car fixed until they go reset the computer inside your car.
You preaching! You preaching!
Because what will happen is the issue will be fixed, but your car will continue to tell you that there's an issue. Oh, Lord. You can often have lingering ailments and issues in your body, but they not be real issues in your body. They're manifestations of issues that you're dealing with here. So you've got to renew your mind before you can recalibrate your mission. God can't set you back on the path until he deals with what you're thinking. Because scripture says, I want my good theology, so as a man thinketh, I got two Bible readers in the building.
Now, we had to get that clip in because I don't know. People. I want people to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, we were talking about what? That balance. And you're telling about that balance in the beginning, about your mind. And then you just told us, you have to renew, in order to renew your mind, you got to recalibrate it. See, the things that we were taught growing up, the things that led from you playing drums at 5, your mind was recalibrated to go another way, but it got recalibrated and renewed you in one summer to come back to music so that you can start helping others recalibrate. Because if not, we will never accomplish our mission if we don't recalibrate our mind. So I got to know, when you go, because I know everybody probably asking like, hold on, we was on jazz and now we on doctor and ministry. What happened? And I got to get people, because I told you, we don't miss nothing. We got from 5. We know when you recalibrated after 10 years of the car running bad, you recalibrated and got you on your jazz, which is your part of your purpose. And people think that their purpose is only like jazz. I can only do music. And it's like, man, no, it breaks off from that. Most people start in the church and don't realize when they see these R&B singers and everybody like, you know what Whitney Houston started at? Oh, you just remember the hit song. But they will calibrate. And I want to ask you, because we had when you recalibrated, came back to music, what was that renewing of the mind that recalibrated and everything that led you down the path where now I got to connect music and become ministry together? How does that happen?
Well, interestingly enough, I never stopped doing music. I've always done music, and music has always been the foundational undercurrent. It's something that I've always done. I just never considered doing it professionally, right? It was just what I did for God. It was my gift. And during the time, even when I loved science and everything, I was a band, a jazz band. I continued to get better at music, but I never thought about music a long term, right? I needed a job. You understand what I'm saying? I needed a job. Music was something that I was excellent at, but I needed a job.
Yes.
So what happened in school was that God showed me that what I loved could be how I led.
Can you say that again?
In school, in undergraduate, God showed me just through the process of doing that what I loved be how I led, right? So what happened in school, while I was a jazz studies drum set major, I got my first job as the minister of music of Miracle Temple Church of God in Christ, there in Florida, on the other side of, right before you get to Havana, on the other side of, Lord, I can't think of what the little city is. It's right when you come out of Quincy. It's a little small city between Quincy and Havana. I got to cut my teeth as a minister of music, literally being over the entire music faction of the church while I was studying jazz in school. So God opened that. He opened a major ministry door while I'm doing music. A major ministry door while I'm doing music. What's crazy about the conversation is what God allowed me to do. He allowed me while I was in school to marry my love for music with a passion that I've always had for music ministry. So in school, I developed as a leader. I was already a learner, but I developed as a leader in school in a gospel community while I'm studying secular music. Who would have thought it, right? Who would have thought it?
I would.
See, you know what? Let me tell you, I would too, because every experience has led and built up to where I am now. Everything.
Well, you gotta also remember how we grew up. So I want people, because it's some younger people, and if you older and know what I'm talking about, back in the day and still to this day, them people that were still in them clubs on Friday and Saturday that were jazz musicians, they was in the church on Sunday. Church musicians.
Absolutely.
Like I can't even lie. I can't sit here and lie like I wasn't in the club on Saturday and Mama had me up Sunday morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way, Mama. I'm on my way. Like it goes hand in hand. Jazz, blues, they all were the same people that was there on Friday and Saturday in the club dancing, playing music. They were in church on Sunday. So no, I can agree with you. So continue on. I just want to let you know I understand.
Listen, and they'll get mad. They'll get real mad at me. They'll get very upset with me with saying this, Billy. But this is your show, and if I make it too bad, they can inbox me and I'll clean it up. But that's still the story of my life now. If you go look on my Instagram timeline, the video before you see a video of me preaching will be a video of me playing Purple Rain in the park on guitar. I've done the best ministering in the middle of a cigar bar. I've done the absolute best ministering at the end of a stage at a show traveling with a corporate band. I've had the most people come up to me and say, you know, you sound really, really, really good, but there was something different about you. Come here, let me tell you about Jesus. Come here. Come on, let me tell you about Jesus. That's how God has always opened those doors for me. And it hadn't been in those conventional places and spaces. My life has never been normal. There's nothing about my life that I can trace to normality, really. Everything has been like, what? Why? How? So I left undergraduate. My oldest child, his name is Benjamin Isaac McCrae. He may be watching. He was born. My oldest child was born. Now, my wife and I, we have two sons that are 4 and 1. And my oldest, my big boy, he's 13. He just turned 13 this year. My middle baby will be 5 this year, but he just turned 13 this year. So my oldest son has a different mother than my two babies. I had my oldest son between coming out of undergraduate and let me tell you how God does. Coming out of undergraduate, my last semester, it was a summer semester, summer 2009. My son was born in May of 2009, and I had gotten several calls while I was in school to tour, major calls to tour with plays. One of them had Tank, and this was when Tank was huge. One of them had like Boris Cujo. I mean, the place had all of these many people, and I got called to do them. My mama said, "Don't leave school, stay in school." So I stayed in school. I missed a lot of it. I had friends. I've got 2 friends. One of them left to go on the road with Ray Charles. One of them left to go on the road with Al Green. One of them left to go on the road with CeeLo. One of them left my roommate. Long story. We'll get into all that. So all of my friends, close friends around me, are jumping on major tours. I'm not talking about Chitlin Circuit. I mean major runs with major artists. They're leaving. They're doing these major things. And I, feeling equally as talented, kind of sat on my hands like, Lord, well, why am I not getting these opportunities? I got the opportunities. Mama said stay in school. I stayed in school. So my son was born. I moved back to Valdosta, home where I didn't want to be, but God opened the door for me to get an assistantship to get my master's at Valdosta State. Now, my first master's is in classical percussion. They paid me to teach other students, and they paid for my education. That was a godsend. I needed somewhere to land. Coming in between, it was a hard time, 23, 22, 23, 24. I got a baby. You know what I mean? It's a lot going on. When I graduated from that master's program, I got the call that changed my life, because when I left my master's program, I toured with Music Soul Child for 4 months, 3.5, 4 months. I touched almost all the lower states. We touched all the lower states. It was a national tour. We hit almost all the states. Like 40, 50 shows. It was amazing. But God opened the door for me to do what I wanted to do, but it was in His time, right?
Yep.
So fast forward, I'm at this crux in my life. I'm coming off a tour. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. I get a minister of music job at one of the major churches in my city. And I feel this tug and this pull on my heart to do ministry. But I don't want to say what I know it is, because the last thing I want to be in life is a preacher. That's the last thing I want to be. You know what I'm saying? The very last thing. And didn't want to be no. My dad's a preacher. My mom's a preacher. My stepmama's a preacher. My stepdaddy's a preacher. My uncles that are preachers. I just don't want to be a preacher. I just don't want to be a preacher. You understand what I'm saying? And then let's be truthful about it. My pastor says that confession is good for the soul, but bad for the reputation. Most of these jokers that are preaching, and most of these jokers that I've seen preaching, they don't live a life. You know, they out here doing any and everything. So I don't want to be like them. I don't want to do it, right? So I said to God, I'm going to go to seminary to test this thing out. I'm just going to go to school to see if you're calling me to ministry. Billy, I went to seminary and looked like an hour and a half. You know, I felt like I wasn't there 2 minutes. And I knew what the Lord was saying. I knew what he was saying. So I just went on ahead, finished it out, and I accepted my call to ministry. But I struggled for the longest with this thing. How can I be a musician that I know God's gifted me to be and be a minister? How can I really be a minister and do the music that I want to do, or play for the artists that I want to play for? Now, I've done a bunch of records with a bunch of gospel people, but I've done a butt ton of records with a whole bunch of secular people. I've got records with R. Kelly. You know what I mean? I've got records with Christina Milian. I'm dating myself now. I've got records with Christina Milian. I've got records with Lord Jesus. I need to look at my resume. I got records. I got records with a lot of people. I got records with the Field Mob. I don't know if you know anything about Field Mob. You know, I used to be in the studio. I used to be in the studio all the time with Field Mob, like all the time. Like there was nothing for me to be. I got Rick Ross. I was on the Port of Miami. I played on that record. I got records on some major secular artists, and a lot of them, you know, again, confession is good for the soul, bad for the reputation. I remember one night being in the club in the VIP with Fat Joe and with Rick Ross and with Christina Milian, and I remember I was there literally because I was working on their records with this group of producers. They're called the Runners. There were two, Drew Brett and May Zane, two guys I got hooked up with coming out of. I was out of school. I used to be in Orlando 3 days a week working with them. You know, making major records. You know what I'm saying? So I know what it looks like to have, you know, to get out of Lamborghini or to ride in the Porsche or to have a limo Mercedes pick you up, and I'm literally hanging out arm in arm, you know, drinking, put it all out there with some of the more major figures in the secular music industry, right? But the whole time God had a call on my life, and the conversations always led some kind of way back to God. And I'm like, well, shucks, I'm here to work, and God, you got me talking to these people about Jesus. What is this about? It just, every experience brought me back to the center of who God made me. And God didn't just make me a minister, and he didn't just make me a musician, but he made me a music minister.
Man, like all those, I want everybody to understand what you're saying, because you know we know about Bibles and all that. Thou without sin, cast the first stone, and get all that. And we see, because I got so many in today's society, so many people just want to have influence. They want to be an influencer. You not only were with the people that were influencing certain parts of society, but many people don't even know the role that you play on it. Like I can think of so many people. Like we got one that's watching the show tonight. Gabe Leal. He's a major influencer. Shout out, Gabe. Thanks for tuning in. And you're sitting there rubbing elbows with these people that many people see you on Sunday, see you throughout the week, have no idea. But like you said, when you were on the stage, and this goes back again, it all comes full circle back to balance. When you were like in the beginning, Instagram, and your wife was like, "Nah, we need TikTok too." Because why? The TikTok, the younger generation, they need to be ministered to. They need to hear certain positive things as well. But it's only going to cause the balance if you go. It does no good if all you do in your music is just in the church. Sometimes you have to go reach those different avenues, because believe it or not, I want people to understand this. We've seen so many influential people, as you said, on the secular side of the house throughout time. All of a sudden they're God, and they're preaching, trying to give back. And where do you think that comes from? It doesn't. God turns the light bulb on, but there's people like Dr. B just sitting in the cut doing God's work, whispering in the ear, play a key a certain way that make them be like, "Ooh, that remind me of back in 1989 when Mama had." It's the little things that you don't pay attention to, because Dr. B said it himself. I don't want to be a preacher. Every single adult, almost influential in my life, is a preacher. I don't want to be. But little things start happening. Little things start happening, and what happens? You end right back on the path that he wants you on. Now it's up to you if you're gonna do. Because I promise you, when people say their life is a wreck and shambles, sometimes I ask myself, what are you doing? Are you? And I'm not saying it because I believe, because what's that song? Because you said it. Every the way music is now,
all genres,
all our music, it kind of blends together. And I know me, like Kirk Franklin. Oh, don't get me started on him. Like, I love him to death, but if you listen to that music, you be in there. Oh, I'm not in the club dancing, but when they say melodies from heaven rain down on me, like, think about it. People's life are in shambles or things are going bad, and they're like, "Oh, this is the worst. God doesn't have my back." He has to put you through things to get you to the other side. And if you aren't ready to go through what he needs you to go through now, you're not ready for the blessings that he's gonna rain down on you. And Dr. B said it best, and that's where that part comes in. You're wondering why things aren't going right. Have you ever thought to think, maybe because I'm fighting against what he wants me to do? Dr. B, I'm glad you didn't fight against going to that music, and I'm glad you didn't fight going to the ministry, because we need you. Oh my goodness, I can do this all day, because you led down and went through, said about teaching in school, and then it went to ministry, and you teach in ministry. Like, how? All I can say is, for one, let's do this first, because I know people probably looking like, how you know so much? What are you talking about? So in order for me to go that route, can you please tell, because I know how to, can you tell people how can they get in touch with Dr. B, especially on Instagram and TikTok and all that, so that they can see what I see, and maybe they'll get a better picture?
Okay, so you can, my handle everywhere is BMac Music. It's spelled this way: BMAC MUSIK. There's a K at the end of music instead of a C. BMac Music. That's everywhere. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. That's Facebook. If you're on Facebook, my personal page is a public page. So that means if you're not my friend, you can have access to everything on my page. It's literally Brandon McCrae. On Facebook, I also have a music page. It's called BMac Music Productions. I've got a ministry page that is BMac Ministries. But if you look up BMac Music or Brandon McCrae, you'll find me everywhere. I've got 2 pages on YouTube as well. One of them is a music page that has everything. It has my jazz stuff, live videos of me playing secular stuff, live videos of me playing church stuff. And then I've got BMac Ministries, which has all of my preaching things. I do a series called Wisdom on Wednesday, every Wednesday. And it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, and it's on YouTube. So you can find all that there. So if you look up Brandon McCrae or BMac Music, boom, there you go. You'll be able to find it anywhere and everywhere. That's my handle. Now,
Dr. B, Dr. McCrae, Dr. Brandon McCrae, Mr. BMac Music. I know you gave us a bunch, but I asked everybody this, and I can't wait to hear this. Can you please, whatever it is, whatever God has put on your heart and mind, because we got to keep that balance, for us that are out there that are trying to transition from different phases of our life, sort of like you did, what is that inspirational, motivational thing that you can tell us to recalibrate our minds so we can come renew and find that balance? What's that thing that you would give us?
Man, interestingly enough, unprepared, but since we're here, I'm trying to give it to you in about a minute and a half. I had the opportunity to share with our church last night from Romans chapter 12. Verse 1 and 2. Everybody knows it. If I would ask you to turn to it, it would almost be insulting your intelligence. Those of us that grew up in the old church, y'all would know it. It would sound like this: I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Christ, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed, here's the key, to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Here's the interesting thing. Here's what I would love to leave with any and everybody here. before you can get and before we can transition into recalibration, before we can get there, there has to be a renewing. And the renewing is simply not thinking on the things of the world. That word in the Greek is aeon. It means age. Thinking of what happens, what's permissible now. Systems of this world, because what the world and people around us will tell us is okay is not okay, and we know that it's not okay. So we've got to be okay with not being okay to the world. You've got to renew your mind. And that's not the spooky thing. That's not a strange thing. That's not a ridiculously esoteric thing, something that you can't grasp. That's a very real thing. This is how you renew your mind. Think on what he says in Philippians 4:8. Think on the things that are good. Think on the things that are lovely. Think on the things that are of good report. Put your mind on God and allow your thoughts of Christ, your thoughts of what he's done, what he will do, how he's called you to be. Let that thing wash over to you. This is what the world would call it, positive thought. That's what they want you to say, positive thought. But it's much more than positive thought. When you put your mind on Christ, what happens is having God on your mind, it goes from your head to your heart. And eventually, once that thing gets down in your heart, it comes to your heels because you walk out what's been on your head and in your heart. So if you've got God on your mind, then you're going to have God in your motivation. If you've got God on your mind, you're going to have God in your movement. If you've got God on your mind, you're going to have God in your methods. If you have God on your mind, you're going to have God in your means. Everything that you put God into, he will open that door for you. So this is how you transfer. This is how you get over the bridge. This is how you move from one section of your life to the next, putting your mind on God. And when you allow him to infiltrate every aspect of your mind, I guarantee you, he will transform your heart and he will transform your path. He will illuminate, open up. He will show you what it is you ought to do, how it is you ought to do. You'll find yourself saying stuff, doing stuff you don't understand and recognize it, but you can hear your grandmother's voice in the back of your head. You'll understand it better by and by, because he's pushing you on the path, not that you want, but on the path that he wants for you. That's what that prayer is. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. That's what that prayer is. You're asking God to bring his kingdom in the earth through you. So give your mind to God and he'll give you everything else that you need. Give your heart to him. Renew your mind and he will recalibrate your mission. Renew your mind and allow God to take over, and he'll recalibrate. He'll put you back on the path that you need to be to walk out the mission that he's called you to do.
I'm not touching that. Ooh, Lord.
Yes, you are. Touch it, Billy. Touch it.
That right there, I got renewed just listening. I'm already, I can almost, if you could see inside of my head, you can almost like a mechanic in there tinkering with stuff. I know it's God and recalibrating stuff, because
yes, sir.
I'm talking about right now. I feel like I can get up, run a marathon, write a couple books, do all kinds of things, because that right there was powerful, and it all came back to the same thing. God in your mind, he will renew it, and he will recalibrate your mission and have you going in the right direction, walking on the right path. I'm not touching that, because that right there did it for now. Don't get me wrong. We definitely gonna have to have you back on this show, because it's so much more that needs to be peeled back for not just for me, but for everybody that's watching, because of what you did and what you said, the nuggets that you dropped, the fire that you set this thing on today. We needed it. And on behalf of everybody watching and listening, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure and a privilege. And I just want to say thank you for hosting, because there's so many things that are out there, and we don't have positive images. We don't have this, right? Yeah. Not only for our group of people, but for our age group, for our color group, right? Our racial group. We don't have this period for positivity. Everything is negative. So thank y'all for putting something purpose driven out to help people find their purpose. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Now, I'm finna. I never do this, but when I say we want you back, I want. It's like a teaser, I guess you could say. I'm gonna give you something, give whatever you need, but that's gonna be the setup for the next time. So based on everything we said, we talked about Ham. We talked about how geography has shifted. We talked about how certain people believe that whites or European was forced religion on us. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, what is the message that you would give to those of other faiths?
What is the message that I would give to those of other faiths? Faith is a very interesting, grandmother would say, booger. There are those of us that have been indoctrinated from a young age to believe certain things and certain belief systems and things of that nature. But if you look at the world, our outlook of right and wrong is all based in what academically they would call Judeo-Christian beliefs. Our criminal justice system is built upon Judeo-Christian beliefs. Mm-hmm. When you go to court, a court of law, in order for you to swear your truth, you have to put your hand on the Bible, which is a Judeo-Christian document. I'm not saying everybody wrong. I'm just saying, let me be more ecumenical. So there is truth to be found. You know, you can find a piece of knowledge or wisdom everywhere. And there are groups and spaces, many of them that have part and parcel of truth. And there is something that we can find in everything. I've just found the center of my joy in Christ. And I would implore everyone who has not given him a fair shot to give him a fair shot, because what he'll do, what seems to be his MO, is that he illuminates, lifts up, enlightens those dark spaces that many of us have. So the message for other faith groups from me as a preacher would be, I love for you to try Christ. The message as a committed person is that we have more in common than we have disjointed. So we should all work together for the common good. And lastly, my third part of that message is I appreciate everyone that is true to their convictions, because you can deal with people that are true to convictions. People that are faulty and that run amok up and down, they can't make up their mind. Those are the individuals I can't deal with. So I guess that's my three-part message and teaser to all of those people. I thank you all for joining and watching, and I hope that I've said something that piqued your interest. If I did, you can find me at any of these outlets, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about anything that we've talked about. But thank you for what you do. We love you, and there's only one race, that's the human race, and we're all a part of it. And I'm so glad to be your brother and or uncle and or whatever you want to see the relation in our human race connection. Yeah, that's my message, I guess.
Well, with that being said, I'm not even going nowhere, because that was a great intro for one. Ooh, this teaser, it's gonna be good. Now, don't go nowhere. Stay with me, because I want to talk to you after the show, because you already lit it on fire, and I don't want you to give them no more. I'm anticipating, and it ain't even came yet. Like, can we do this next Thursday? Like, I promise you, this is gonna be good. But no, promise you, don't go nowhere. Stay with me. Again, Dr. B, thank you for coming on, and thank you. I see you on another side, good sir. Man, now, don't say I never did nothing for y'all. Y'all just got a teaser for the next time we have Dr. Brandon McCrae come on. Because as his music plays in the background, he only brings you nothing but the faith. He told us about how the faith has driven him. He told us about how his purpose was driven through faith. There was times that he went different ways, just like all of us in life. Times we get off the beaten path. But when we recalibrate our mind, we renew our mind, we allow God to enter our mind, he renews our mission. You heard it from Dr. B first. And man, I can't wait for the next time that we get to talk to him and let him bless us again with more knowledge. But until then, just remember, every Thursday, we're live, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And as always, I love y'all. And if you missed any part of this show or you don't, Need some of the links? Remember, go to YouTube and subscribe. Strategic Dope. That's Strategic D.O.P.E. because you know me. I'm all about helping you develop on purpose every day so that you can have the dope life that's driven by your purpose. And as always, until next Thursday, I want you to continue to live in your purpose with purpose on purpose. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll see y'all next week. Love y'all.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.